Well, hello, my friends. Let's go ahead and get this shared over to the Facebook group. I'll pop over here. Tonight's live stream starts now over on YouTube. Okay. All right, everybody. So we'll give it just a few minutes for some people to pop in here. It generally takes YouTube a few minutes to send out notifications. It'll take Facebook a few minutes to send out the notifications of that post. So give it just a few minutes here. If you're jumping in now, looks like we just had somebody jump in. Feel free to drop a comment into the comment section. We'll be covering a topic today that you can see in the title of the video. But other than that, we are doing our normal raw feeding Friday Q&A. So feel free to drop your raw feeding and fresh food related questions into the comment section. So again, we'll just give it a few minutes here. I don't know why this is so blurry right now. I guess we'll have to deal, I guess. Or wonder if is it trying to pick that up too much and not me instead? I don't know. We might just have to deal with a little bit of the blur. Okay. So we're about minute 35. At 2 minutes, we'll start going into our topic. And if people have questions about the topic, we'll address them afterwards. Let's see. Okay. So we are at minute 2 now. Let's start talking about our topic, which is the differences in metabolisms for raw fed dogs. And I say raw fed dogs because, of course, we talk about raw fed dogs here at Raw Feeding 101. But this really applies to just dogs, period. Whether they're eating raw food, whether they're eating cooked, whether they're eating kibble, whether they're eating pre-mades or whatever else, the dogs are going to have their own individual metabolisms. And sometimes the type of metabolism that your dog has can affect the way that you have to feed them. And the differences in what the standards say to feed and what you actually need to feed. So let's jump into this. For the most part, like as an example, when we are putting together meal plans, recipes for our meal plan clients, we are shooting for a very specific calorie number. And that very specific calorie number is based on all of the dog's different pieces of personal data. So we're talking the dog's age, the dog's weight, breed, activity levels, whether they're neutered or spayed or they're intact, all kinds of different factors that are helping us determine how many calories a day that this dog needs. Now, most of the time, if a dog is fed whatever that standard calculation is, whatever that number is, let's just say for sake of argument, 1,600 calories, right? And the dog weighs 80 pounds, then most of the time that 80-pound dog that's getting 1,600 calories a day, according to the standard numbers, is going to maintain their weight. We're talking about an adult dog in this case, okay? Most of the time, they will maintain that weight. However, there are differences in dogs' metabolism sometimes. I've even experienced this with Montu, which I'll get to into a minute. Which I'll get into in a minute. There we go. So again, most of the time, if dogs are fed the number of calories that all the standard data says to feed, they will maintain whatever their current weight is. Now, sometimes dogs will have a mildly slow metabolism or a very slow metabolism, or they could go the other direction and have a slightly fast metabolism or a very fast metabolism. When dogs are experiencing a slow metabolism, whether it's mild or it's extreme, and they are fed that daily calorie or that standard calorie amount, a lot of the times what you're going to observe is the dogs start gaining weight. And so maybe you've gone through one of the boot camp programs, you learned how to calculate all the numbers, you learned how to hit all your numbers by balancing, and you notice that your dog starts gaining weight. Or you went and got recipes from us, or you've done your own calculations at home without us at all, and you're feeding that 1600 calories and your dog is gaining weight like crazy. And or they're just gaining a little bit of weight, but they haven't at all up until this point. That is a pretty good indicator that your dog may have a slower than average metabolism. If they're being fed the standard amount of calories, but their weight keeps going up, they probably have a slow metabolism. Now, in the reverse, if you're feeding that standard amount of calories, in this example, we've been using 1600 calories, and your dog keeps losing weight, that's generally a good indicator that the dog has a fast metabolism. Now, in order to really identify if that is what's going on, you need to be really specific at looking at a few things. Number one, you have to be sure of the amount of calories that you're feeding on a daily basis, whether that's with meal plans that we made for you, whether you went through one of the boot camp programs, you did the calculations on your own, whatever it happens to be, you know for a fact that they're getting 1600 calories because you've ran the numbers and you feed those specific amounts. So that's step number one, is making sure that you know exactly how many calories a day the dog is actually getting. The second thing that you need to identify is whether or not something has changed. Have they started exercising less because the weather has changed, or they had surgery, or they had a mild injury, or you left for a couple of weeks or something like that on a vacation and you had a pet sitter watching them, and so they weren't getting as much exercise? Has something changed? That's the second question that you need to ask yourself after you identify that you know how many calories for sure they're eating on a daily basis. So, number one is how many calories are they eating, and knowing for sure that that's how many calories they're eating. And number two, asking yourself, has something changed? Because if you know that they are eating a certain amount of calories, and nothing has changed, like exercise, like their diet, like an injury, a surgery, something like that, if there's a change going on with weight gain or loss, then they may have a slow or fast metabolism. But that's the two different pieces I recommend that you look at first: the being for sure about how many calories they're eating. And number two, has anything changed? If anything has changed, identify what it is and research whether or not, or you could ask us, research whether or not that change could have an impact on the dog losing weight or the dog gaining weight. If nothing has changed, everything's the exact same with their life, and they're eating the exact same amount of calories, and they're still gaining or losing weight, it's probably something to do with a uh, metabolism. I don't want to say issue, but a an outside the norm metabolism. Now, just to be clear, there are medical issues that could come into play with weight loss and weight gain, but we're not talking about medical issues here. We don't talk about medical issues here because we're nutrition professionals, not medical professionals. So, do be aware that there are medical conditions that can cause your dog to lose or gain weight. But assuming that your dog is healthy and there are no medical issues going on, if the dog is being fed a specific amount, exactly what all the numbers say they should be eating, and nothing has changed in their daily routine, their exercise, no surgery, no injuries, nothing like that, but they're still gaining or losing weight, they may have a fast or slow metabolism. If they have a fast metabolism, then you're going to want to slowly increase the amount of food that they are eating on a daily basis until you get to a point of maintenance. Maintenance meaning they're maintaining whatever their current weight is. They're not going up, they're not going down, they're maintaining their current weight. If your dog is gaining a bunch of weight because you think that they have a slow metabolism, then you're going to want to slowly adjust your recipes down instead of up, down until you reach a point of maintenance. So, a fast metabolism is going to require you to increase the food slowly until you find a point of maintenance. A slow metabolism is going to require you to slowly drop the amount of calories in food until you reach a point of maintenance. And unfortunately, there's no good, can't go do a hair sample test or a saliva sample test and be like, does my dog have a standard, a fast, or a slow metabolism? If there is a test like that, I've never heard of it before. So if there is one, tell me, but I've never heard of one. So unfortunately, this is one of those things that we can't know until we try. As a personal example, I told you guys I'd get to this in a minute. As a personal example, for a period of time, for a few months, I think like 4 or 5 months, Montu's metabolism when he was a puppy just went crazy. I mean, I was doing all of his numbers. I mean, I make meal plans for you guys on a regular basis. Raw Feeding 101 makes meal plans for all you guys on a regular basis. So I was going through and doing Montu's meals and everything like that, of course, right? Why wouldn't I? And in order to have him continue gaining weight at his expected rate for a puppy, his breed, everything else, I had to feed him more than 300 calories over the standard number. Now, that phase did not last forever. It was a temporary change, and that's an important note too. Metabolisms can change over time, but there was a period of time where I had to feed him 300 calories over the daily recommended amount. And just for some context, our boot campers know this. They've seen this information in classes. But generally speaking, if we go more than 25 calories over the daily recommended amount, we're going to try and rein that in. So, going 300 calories over is a massive amount over. So, these things can be a little bit frustrating because you can't really test for them. You just have to try feeding the standard amount first, observing, and if you need to change something, whether it's up or down, slowly start making those changes until you find that level of maintenance. There are some medical issues that can cause this weight loss and weight gain, but assuming the dog's healthy and doesn't have issues, if you're feeding the standard amount and their weight's going up or down, it may be a metabolism issue, or not an issue really, because it's not a problem. It's just it just is, right? And the other note is these metabolism changes can be temporary or they can be long term. And the only thing that is going to tell you that is by continuing to make adjustments, make modifications, and observe over time. So hopefully that was helpful. Those of you guys that are just joining us, if you have questions about all this metabolism stuff, once the live stream is over, rewind back to the beginning. We started at 2 minutes in. Okay. So if you want to just go to the 2 minute mark and start playing there, then that's when we started talking about metabolisms. But if you guys are in here now and you have any raw feeding or fresh food related questions, we're going to move into the Q&A portion of the evening. I don't have to run away to a boot camp call tonight. We've moved our Friday boot camp calls to Saturdays. So if you guys have any raw feeding or fresh food related questions, please drop them into the comment section now, and I will do my best to address them. Let's see here. Diamond Annie Fergus says, I'm the one that lived in San Diego and took your course. Which one? Was it one of the boot camp programs? The 2018 3.0? Which one did you go through? Quick question. I heard yesterday from a holistic vet that beef and beef liver can cause liver damage in dogs. I mean, it seems like everything somebody is saying causes a problem. Like, we can't drink water anymore without it causing a problem. We can't breathe air without it causing a problem. I'm not saying that it can't. Anything can cause a problem. Drinking too much water can cause a problem. It can cause you to, you know what I'm saying? Drinking too much water can do that. So I'm not saying that they were lying, of course, but I think that it was missing context. Because could you cause problems with beef liver? Yes, 100%. But not if you're feeding it in the right amounts. Just like you can make yourself really, really sick with water, but not if you're drinking it in the right amounts. So, just to say flat out without any other context that beef and beef liver cause liver damage is misleading, I think, because I've fed it for years and years and years and never had an issue with it. We have clients that have fed it for years and years and years and years and never had issues with it. So, could you cause damage with beef liver? Yes. You could cause all kinds of damage with just about any ingredient. The big things that you would need to worry about with beef liver would be vitamin A and potentially copper as well. You could overfeed the liver, which would mean that you were feeding too much vitamin A and too much copper, which could put you into toxicity for both of those nutrients. But um, just to say that beef and beef liver cause those issues, I think is a little bit, it's just missing too much context. It's missing too much context. I'm the lady that had the beagles. Okay. Okay. I don't want to say your name because it looks like you're trying to, stay anonymous, but I remember. He said too much copper in beef liver. I have had this come up several times in the last week or in the last 2 weeks, I should say. Here's what I think I'm going to state this right now. So if anybody takes a little clip of this, hopefully you'll include this piece. Okay. I'm going to say this right now. This is purely speculative on my part. It is a pure hypothesis, a theory. I have no data to support it. This is just my thinking on the subject. What I think that you're talking about is the copper storage disease. Okay. This has been on my mind the last 2 weeks again. So here we go. Here's the spiel. And again, hypothesis, theory, idea, no hard data, just what I think. Is this disease real? Yes, it's real. It's 100% real. It absolutely is. Is it a massive, massive issue? From what I have seen, and when I say, let me clarify, when I say is it a massive issue, I don't mean is the disease, if a dog has this disease, is it a major issue? Because if the dog does, then yes, it is. It's a big deal. It's something that you need to manage. You need to work with your vet on, work with whoever is managing your recipes on, et cetera, et cetera. But what I mean when I say is it a big deal is how widely are dogs being affected? Is it 1 in 10 dogs? Is it 1 in 100 dogs? Is it 1 in 100,000 dogs? And I have a feeling, again, this is all speculative, all hypothesis and theory, no data, just from what I've seen with this issue start to come up over the last few weeks. Every year, every 6 months, every year and a half, something like that, there seems to be some new big topic that starts getting discussed. And a lot of it is content creators needing to create content that continue to build more fear and concern and keep you clicking and keep you watching. A lot of it is based off of, from my observation, issues with certain regulatory bodies having issues with raw feeding companies. But a lot of the time, what we end up seeing is this is very similar to DCM, is there's this huge deal about it. Everybody's freaking out about it. There are dogs that have these genuine issues. And if those dogs do have those issues, they are major concerns and should be addressed with the veterinarian. But it's not 1 in 5, 1 in 10, 1 in 15 dogs that are having this issue. It's much much less widely affecting than it's being made out to be. But everybody's got a video on it. Everybody wants you to go click and watch the content so they can talk about it. That ultimately just ends up saying, who knows? And just like we saw with DCM, whatever it was, 8 months later, a year later, I don't even remember, the regulatory body, I don't even want to say the name on YouTube because it brings unnecessary attention to the channel, basically came out and said, actually, we can't find any direct correlation between grain-free diets and DCM. So we're still right, but we can't tell you why we're right. And we can't find any data to support this claim that we're making that grain-free diets lead to DCM. So the copper storage issue is 100%, zero doubt whatsoever, is a real disease, does cause real problems. And if a dog has it, then it does need to be addressed effectively with your veterinarian, 100%. Do I think that this is a massive deal that is affecting a gigantic portion of the canine population? From what I have seen, I do not. I might be wrong because we don't have a whole lot of data yet, but from what I have seen, I don't think that it is. And here's my theory part of this, or more of my theory part about this problem. If there is an increase in dogs that are experiencing this issue, because it is from my understanding, my very limited research into this issue, is that it is a genetic marker issue, meaning your dog's either predisposed to this problem or they're not. It's part of their genetics or it's not. That if dogs have a predisposition to this problem, one thing that could be triggering it is that there are so many people who are feeding 80-10-10 and other ratio / percentage based diets like PMR plus, barf plus, again, 80-10-10, all the other percentage variations like 70-13, blah, 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 70-10, blah, 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 that the amount of liver that they're feeding because they're just following percentages is higher than it needs to be. And because beef liver is one of the, if not the most readily available liver sources that there are, because you can find it at just about any regular grocery store in the freezer section most of the time, that is being fed the most. And beef liver does have a lot of copper in it. That's one of the reasons why we use beef liver in a lot of puppy recipes, because it has enough copper in it to take care of the extra copper needs that puppies have without having to put another supplement in there. So this combination of people feeding 80-10-10, 70-13, 74-12, all these other random percentage diets, PMR, BARF, all those are being fed higher amounts of liver than necessary. The liver that a lot of them are being fed is beef liver because it's the most readily available, and beef liver has higher amounts of copper in it. So all these things combining together may be causing us to see some more of these dogs that are genetically predisposed to this problem having this issue manifest. So all of that to say, rewinding here and summarizing, I don't, purely speculative, just a theory from observation. Take it with a grain of salt. Is that disease a real issue? Yes, it is. It's an absolute serious medical condition that should be addressed with your veterinarian if your dog has it. Do I think that right now it is affecting a massive percentage of the canine population? From what I have seen, no. I might be wrong, but from what I have seen, no. And if for the dogs that it is affecting that are raw fed, I have a theory that one contributing factor may be the fact that they are feeding inaccurate recipes because they're following ratio and percentage based diets instead of calorie and nutrient based diets like the ones that we make at Raw Feeding 101 that actually control these nutrient levels. And because of that, they're feeding more liver than necessary. The liver that they're feeding is likely beef liver because it's the most readily available almost in every grocery store in the freezer section. And all this is coming together to create the perfect little storm for that dog who's already genetically predispositioned to have this problem to manifest this issue. So, sorry for all that roundabout, but that's what I think so far. I could be completely wrong. We don't have a lot of data on it. I was actually speaking to somebody yesterday whose dog was diagnosed with this genetic marker, that the dog had a genetic marker for it. The oncologist or the surgeon who specialized in liver surgeries at this very specialized vet office, even them, the one that works on the livers a lot, uh, was not familiar with this copper storage disease. They knew what it was, but did not have a lot of details on it. So if the guy who specializes in surgery at this vet office, and it's a very prestigious vet office that this person was at, I'm not going to say the person's name or anything like that, but this specialist who works on livers all the time basically said, I think that it might be this, but I don't know a whole lot about it. So if the liver specialist doesn't know a whole lot about it, it can't be that big of an issue. And I'm not saying if your dog has this problem that it's not a big issue. You absolutely should go get it addressed with your vet because it can be a big problem if you don't address it. I just don't think that it's this, 5 out of 10 dogs have this problem. I just don't see the data supporting that. I just don't. So now that we ranted about copper storage disease for a little bit, if you guys have any other raw feeding or fresh food related questions, please drop your comments into the comment section and I will do my best to answer them. Oh, whoops. No, I don't. No. I don't need to do that. Okay. Diamond Annie Fergus says, thank you, Scott. You are welcome. And then they say, you rock, Scott. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I've said this to people in the past. Boot camp, some of our boot campers will remember. I've said it in live streams before that DCM was the last, let's make a really big deal out of it so that we can make content and all that stuff that the community has seen. And that in the next 6 months to a year or something like that, there's going to be another one. And there's going to be another one. And there's going to be another one. And that's not to downplay the dogs that are experiencing these issues because they are serious medical issues. But I think that a lot of the time it gets blown way out of proportion purely for the sake of people getting clicks and views. So, yeah, which I'm just not down for. I'm just not. I'm not going to make a big video topic on here's why you should be scared of copper storage disease. Run away now. If you've got any recipes that have beef liver in it from us, come buy more meal plans now so we can take this dangerous ingredient out. I just don't think that it's that big of a widespread issue. So that's my piece on it. Yeah. All right. Let's do one more check to see if we got any other questions coming in here. Let me check over on Facebook to see if we had any questions come in from our post over on Facebook about the live stream. Okay. I don't see over there. Let's check over here in YouTube land. It looks like it's just Diamond here hanging out with us. We got more people hanging out, but no one else is asking a question. So I'll give you guys one more minute here to ask another question, and then I'll let you guys go for the week. But yeah, hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers. If you guys start seeing a bunch of content, which if you're watching this right now, I bet that you will. I bet that you will see a bunch of content coming out from other creators about copper storage disease. Not all of them are going to be doing it for fear reasons. It's just let's have a chat about it. A lot of them will do that, which is totally fine, which is totally good. But you will see some content about here's why you should freak out about copper storage disease. And I hope that you take in that information with a level head and consider all of the details before you start getting freaked out about it. Brenda C is saying, can I freeze eggs? You can. I don't like to because it's one of my crap. I forgot to pull out dog food last night. In fact, earlier this week, I uploaded a video into the Facebook group just for Facebook group members that was all about crap. I forgot to um basically what to do when you forget to defrost food was the topic of the video the day after I put that video up. So that night I had forgotten to take out dog food. So I like to leave the eggs just separate in the fridge so that if I make that mistake, or rather when I make that mistake, I at least have something that I can give them. I gave Montu an egg, and while his other food defrosted, at least he had something in his tummy. So you can freeze them. You absolutely can freeze eggs. Personally, I don't like to because I like to use them as my little safety net, if you will. Same with canned sardines. And Brenda C says chicken eggs. Yeah. Chicken eggs, duck eggs, quail eggs, velociraptor eggs. You can freeze all of them. Although make sure the velociraptor eggs aren't, fertilized. You don't want to be hatching any velociraptors in your freezer. Could be bad news the next time you go to open it. Okay. Let's do one last check for any other questions here. If we don't have any more, then we will go ahead and get ourselves closed up for the evening. Okay, I don't see any over here. Let's check over here in YouTube land one more time. Looks like Brenda's. Can I freeze eggs, chicken eggs, diamonds, liver, all of that stuff? Okay. All right. Well, it looks like we've addressed everything. You guys have yourselves a great weekend. I will see you guys next Friday for another Raw Feeding Friday Q&A session. We'll also cover another topic just like we did today. If you didn't catch today's topic, make sure to rewind. It's all about metabolisms and how to adjust for your dog's individual metabolism if their metabolism isn't standard. If it's fast, what to do. If it's slow, what to do. And Brenda says, okay, thank you, Scott. Smiley face, and thumbs up to you, my friend. And I will see you guys next Friday for another Friday Raw Feeding Q&A / topic stream video thing. It's Friday. I'm brain dead. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.